What's your name, sir?
Mason McLean.
And what do you do, and what's your company? Or
Well, Aviation Week covers the entire aviation industry. We look at UAVs, we look at aircraft the airlines use, helicopters, and we study how they are used, how they are maintained. We bring companies together who want to be involved in supporting the maintenance of aircraft or making of aircraft. Customers will read our content to learn about what's happening in the future of aviation, and that includes drones. And may use our data and analysis tools to work out how they can be involved in the industry. Because obviously we've got lots of information on how the vehicles are used.
so so in 100 years, how did this all start?
Well, they just
100 years, what have you guys, I don't know.
Well, in 100 years, they've been just talking about the industry, so they've just developed, when the Wright brothers started doing something, someone had to write about it, so it's just talking about all the developments over time. And as time's gone on, they've added things like events, so bringing people together to talk about specific areas of the aviation world, so they can connect and start doing business.
So what would you say is next for the aviation world, though? What would you say is next for the aviation world? As in, I don't know, firstly, is it accessible? And secondly, what kind of field is developing at the moment?
Well, advancing mobility, I should say. Drones, that's advancing. All the airlines and so forth have to look at sustainability, because we're supposedly polluting the world with our fuels, aren't we? So they're moving towards hydrogen. If you watch the attempted NASA launches of the rocket last week, they were having problems with hydrogen. It's very volatile, but once they get that right, it's very clean burning and it doesn't impact on the environment. So that's the future, is to make sure that aviation is not damaging the planet. Space, that's the next frontier, isn't it?
Do you feel there's enough investments in this field?
There's lots of money to be made, There's loads of money, And that's what people want to do, is they want to get into the industry so they can make money. If you think about an Airbus...
But how can you make the money? Yeah, go on, sorry.
If you're wanting to make an Airbus, there's so many different components in that aircraft, down to just bolts. I want to be the bolt supplier for the next run of Airbus aircraft. You can make a lot of money out of doing that. They have to put coatings on different surfaces inside and outside of the aircraft to protect it, make it more hard-wearing. You could just be a coatings company that puts those liquid coatings on it. There's all sorts of opportunities when they're making.
How many Airbuses do you think they're going to allow in the air, though? This is the other side. How do you feel they're going to manage congestion?
That's a good question. I would imagine that it's what impact it's having on the environment. If the aircraft industry can make it more sustainable, less impacting, then sky's the limit. Really, it's just limited by the space that's there. There's a limitation now. You can't have the whole airspace used, but obviously at the moment, governments around the world, people around the world want to pollute less. So.
And do you feel the Civil Aviation Authority is allowing people more access to the air? I don't know. Can I just go and fly drones freely? No. I'm assuming there's rules and...
There's rules. I mean, I suppose if you allowed all the drones to come around, then you're going to impact on helicopters, possibly other aircraft. If you're near an airport and an aircraft's about to take off, you don't want drones sort of in your peripheral vision or losing control and running into the aircraft, do you? That's the other thing, that the control over a drone is limited and can cause impact on bigger manned aircraft. Ultimately, they don't want to put any manned aircraft at risk. And at the moment, drones are not manned. And that's what people forget. If for whatever reason something goes wrong...
But when you say manned, what do you mean by that?
Well, there's a pilot, there's passengers, manned. So
it has to be pilot and passenger. But you can argue pilot.
Not necessarily, just be a pilot. So if it's a cargo plane, there's still a pilot on.
But then are you not technically a pilot then in that situation? Because you're still directing...
Yeah, exactly. If you're on the plane, you're still a human being.
You have to be on the plane.
Correct, yeah. It's got to be someone on the plane. So it's an actual pilot on the plane. But if you're just remote controlling it, well, you're hopefully in a safe place away from any sort of impacts. But if you're actually on the aircraft, whether you be the pilot or a passenger, then the safety for that is paramount. You don't want anybody to get injured, and that's what it's all about. And that's why drones have been limited in usage, because a lot of people don't take into account those aircraft that are in the air.
Is there like a taxi system? What do you think the future is? Because there's drones being developed at the moment that you can sit inside, I'm assuming, and fly within it. But there's no system. Well, is there? I don't know.
They're developing that, and that's the key thing. I mean, Paris Olympics next year, they're going to do some taxiing from I think Charles de Gaulle Airport to Le Bourget, which is another. It's more a military base, but it's more central Paris. So they're going to do some air taxiing across that as a demonstration at the Paris Olympics the year after, and that's also the same year that Paris Air Show's on. So,
is London doing anything at the moment?
They're developing things, but again, I don't think they are going to beat the French at this point to showing. It will be a massive display from France, because they're working on it. All the stakeholders want it to happen. Who wouldn't want to be the first to show that on international television? So I think the French will beat us to it. And you've got to remember the Paris Air Show, which is the longest running air show in the world, since about 1900, they've been running that air show. So they know what there is to know about aviation. So they're probably really up for being the first to display that technology.
Is there a company like that in the UK at the moment?
Well, you've got the Farnborough Air Show, which was on in July. So they run their air show. They had manned drones or autonomous vehicles. A couple of companies were there. One of those was Lilium. But nothing was displayed. You didn't see anybody go up in that. You saw lots of other aircraft like fighter jets and Airbuses all flying around, but they weren't doing those. I think it's the safety element, and all the civil aviation are always going to be concerned first and foremost.
But is there anyone fighting for that at the moment? Because that's going to always be the civil aviation's concern, isn't it?
There will be. I mean, I personally don't know who the players are, but they will be. If they're creating the vehicles, they want to sell those vehicles, they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on the Civil Aviation Authority to make it happen. They're setting up. They've got a drone mini airport in Coventry somewhere that recently set up. But I think it's more for this type of thing. It's not for
like a drone airport.
Yeah, but going forward,
yeah.
The manned ones will probably fly into this because it's smaller than a normal airport. So if you just go into Google and put in Coventry drone airport, it'll come up. All the articles will come up about it. I think we've written about it. And but the scale of it is so much smaller than any other.
That's a wonderful start, though, because if you can get a few airports around,
they are building them. But it's whether or not they will be used for manned UAV type things, like a taxiing service, like you were saying. Because the problem is, you don't want them all flying all over London, for argument's sake, interfering with air traffic.
But I'm assuming
they have to create corridors where they're allowed to fly and stick to that.
But then I'm assuming the only way to really do that is kind of self-driving, isn't it? Or self-flying, should I say?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. And then
it's a trust, isn't it?
If people are going to have that ability to drive them, so if say it's a car that's got a flying ability, then you're going to have a different license. You're going to have to learn how to fly, not just drive a car. So that's a totally different level. So I can't see that coming anytime soon, because you would need a massive increase in your ability.
My last question to you, is it easy to achieve a flying license at the moment?
No, it's not. You do have to put in a lot of hours. My colleague here has got a fixed wing license, and it took him a while to get that. He can fly a helicopter, but he hasn't got his license for that yet because he hasn't done the training for it. So they do put you have to do hours basically. You have to go up there with trainers for a certain amount of time, and then you just have to do more and more hours of practice at set times. And when you pass a certain level of hours, they go, yes, you're qualified. You know, it's like a driving course. Someone will go out with you when you're getting close to those.
How many hours would you say? Sorry.
How many hours does it take you to get your license for flight?
set time. I mean, it's 60 hours for the basic EPL, but then you have to do different ratings and add-ons from there. So I mean, overall, it could take you, 350, 400 hours to be fully qualified. But then even after that, nobody will touch you without any experience.
So with the 350 hours, is that how much do you think that works out to in regards to like book? I'm assuming you got to book someone.
Cost-wise,
Yeah.
Well into six figures. Nowadays to be fully qualified.
Six figures, yeah, rough number.
120,000.
And do you think after you become qualified with the 350 hours, what kind of job would you, or what would you be able to do with it?
Start off as aerial surveys, flying instructor, that type of job, and then you build up to.
And what's the average pay there? Does it match up? I don't know.
I mean, for a flying instructor, again, it depends on what type of aircraft you're teaching on, but they can start on 25,000 up to 70. It depends on what they're teaching, what type of aircraft they're teaching on, what level of license that they're teaching.
Boys, thank you very much for your time today. I really